Hello and welcome to AWS Partner Online Series on Microsoft Workloads, titled Migrate with Confidence. My name is Anil Sharma. I'm a solution architect at AWS, and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Now let's get started. Today's webinar is titled Migrate and Modernize Your Business Applications on Windows with Scale and Security. It is my pleasure to introduce our two speakers, Mr. Ritayan Banerjee. Mr. Banerjee is head of IT at SREI Group. He manages SREI's cloud infrastructure, including the DR setup that is part of their enterprise architect team. Our other speaker today for today's webinar is Mr. Ravi Shankar. He is CTO, Minfy Technologies, and AWS partner. He is a seasoned pre-sales architect for commercial and public sector enterprises with expertise on on-premise to cloud migrations, DR strategies, etc. So thank you. And with that, I will hand it off to Mr. Banerjee.
Thank you, Anil. Hi, this is Ritayan. I take care of the data center operations for SREI. SREI is an NBFC based out of the eastern part of India. We've got about 40,000 crores worth of asset under management. And to us, our data center and data center operations are very critical, specifically at this DR DC age where, and with the times of, where we are today, it is very critical. And the decision which we took 4 years back to move on to a cloud kind of architecture has really helped us a lot into, having the right kind of posture today. So, going forward, I would like to, get onto the screen survey by, where we talk about a lot of, the data center and the, where organizations are going with data center. And the forecast is in about 3 years' time. Most of organizations would be working out of the cloud, and keeping that in background, I would like to talk to you about the journey or more of the journey of what one should or should not be looking at while deciding to move on to the cloud, what are critical to this decision making, and how to best go about it. So before I start, I would like to quickly lighten our moods and talk about Dilbert. Dilbert is a very close character to what I kind of refer to. Teaches us a lot of management lessons, and probably 6-7 years back, cloud was what Scott Adam rightly positioned onto this strip. And from there, I guess we've now moved on a lot. And but when we started our journey, this was where our whole organization thought cloud was. Now, keeping that and moving forward, I would like to now take you to what were the clear objectives which SREI had in mind when we started this whole cloud journey. First and foremost, our data center was about 10 years old. We were running out of capacity. There was a lot of reinvestments which were needed, and we were kind of the right candidate to look at the cloud. So, luck was with us that we were at the right place at the right time. AWS had just come into India. But AWS was not the only player. There were a lot of local players available. But what we needed and what was critical to our operations was we wanted things to be scalable. Earlier, we would have our in-house data center, and we would hire temporary compute to scale up or scale down when and what was required. But that was a tedious task and had its own lead time. But we wanted a solution which was easily scalable on a switch of a button and switched off when we did not needed it. So this was very, very critical to us. Being in the NBFC space, we are governed by RBI guidelines. RBI has a whole booklet on us on what and how we can operate our data centers. And we wanted whatever solution we went into to be compliant to address all of RBI's requirements. You'll be surprised to know that AWS has worked hand in glove with RBI to ensure that most of their operations or all of their operations are compliant to those requirements. There is a white paper available with AWS which helps you adhere to these banking guidelines. The third part which we wanted was reliable. We did not want a shop which probably carried on as legacy of our an extension of our in-house data center, where reliability was at best of the kind of failovers which we could design, and limited to that. AWS for us was very, very reliable, and in the last 4.5, 5 years of operation, I'm happy to report that there has been zero downtime, which is attributed to AWS, and which has been really, really good. And it looks very good when you report back to your management on such figures. TCO is an important factor. TCO, I strongly believe, is outcome over a period of usage. It's something which is hard to probably fixate on when you start a project. You should have some guidelines on the kind of TCO reduction you are looking at. But TCO over a period of time is something which is definitely possible to achieve. With that, something which contributes to the TCO is reduction in manpower. We ourselves have been able to free up the DC team to look at other areas of operation, and we've been very successfully been able to reduce from a 11-person team to just a 2-person team managing the whole operations, which has been very, very good. And lastly, we wanted something which was quick. Any long-term transformational project carries with it the baggage of failure, which comes in because people lose focus, lose track. And we wanted something which could help us migrate quickly. Thankfully, AWS had the right set of tools which helped us, quickly achieve this goal of ours. And that kind of made a lot of sense, and was one of probably the primary reasons why we chose to go ahead with AWS, because this transition probably was as painless as possible. So so it was a critical consideration which we had while choosing AWS. So I'll just run you through a whole set of requirements which we had, and how would we go around, and what helped us choosing AWS as a service provider or a cloud provider. But when we start a journey like this, it is also important to find out key considerations, what are required at our end as an organization, as an entity, what we can or cannot do. And this is very important for us to be aware, to be able to move in the right direction. With SREI, thankfully, we had envisaged Vision 2020 in 2015, which had a cloud first policy. So, and we did bring up a checklist of what was to be adhered to and where we were with that. And we kind of followed those steps to the T. So, we were, like I said, very early on that data and data security was a very critical component to our whole guiding principles, with RBI being involved. So data jurisdiction and data sovereignty was something very critical. So we had to have our data within India, and that is something with the AWS being in Mumbai was made possible. I talked about the white paper, and AWS has a third-party contractual agreement which you can get into, which allows audit and access requirement if need be. And this is something which would vary industry to industry, but that's something which you might require for. DR and the possibilities of DR. So AWS with its multiple zones, a DR within the same geographic region is possible. If you don't have restrictions on data and data sovereignty, you can use other regions of AWS for the DR setup. So it is important that you chalk out what was required for you to be able to use AWS, and that's exactly what we did. Our cloud first policy, our application readiness, our security policies and change. These are things which we had to simulate, keep it ready, so that when the transformation journey started, we were there, we knew exactly what boxes to tick. And it is a pre-exercise, if I may say so, which is required for us to start the journey and ensure the success in the journey. Now, moving forward, when you choose on a provider, you tick mark all the requirements at your end. There is multiple cloud models which we need to choose on: application as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So in SREI, we have software as a service as a first option, but where it is not possible, we take on platform as a service. So that is what AWS is. On certain levels, there is infrastructure as a service in certain levels, and we choose wisely. So it's important to choose the right platform at different levels to ensure that you take the right choices and have the right application running on the right platform. Like I said, security is very important. We have a direct connect within our MPLS network, and how secure you need your access to be is something which would define all this. But to plan for it ahead is very, very important. Then data encryption, data storage encryption. If you have databases as a service, data encryption on that, it's very, very critical to plan and ensure that when you migrate, specifically from an in-house data center, these things are addressed too. You might need certain certification requirements. So most of AWS data centers have certain certification which is publicly available, and it is important to ensure that they follow or they kind of adhere to your certification requirement, because in a lot of cases it's back-to-back certification which you would use. And lastly, it is very, very important, and we kind of learned it the hard way with another transformation journey, that the impact, the business impact analysis and aligning our SLAs to whether it is AWS, whether it is your managed service provider, maybe Minfy in this case, to understand what impact your business has on an application or a service going down, and to have the right SLA aligned to your contract so that you are contractually bound, plus your service provider partner is aware what kind of leeway do they have to bring up a service, because that would be very, very critical for you to be able to ensure that once you've migrated, to ensure that this journey is successful. So if I may kind of sum up, where we are and what we've so we've talked about choosing the right provider. We talked about the readiness on your part. We talked about critical considerations before your move, and finally, to sum it up in a single slide is, if you have planned, I would say plan again. Ensure that your planning is foolproof. Choose the right cloud for the right objective. Today, there are various cloud providers available, but clouds, you have to choose the right service provider and the right services. And I might be repeating this, but it is very important that the right set of services are chosen. Within AWS itself, you'll find competing services, and to choose the right service is very, very important. Contracting, like I said, the way you contract with your partner, keeping your SLA and business impacts in mind, it is very critical. Migration and what you use for migration, how you migrate, how you cut over, and how you stabilize is the fourth pillar, which is very, very important to ensure that this move is successful. So, wrapping it up, nearly organization readiness, a consistent approach, evaluated data, the right security wrap, documentation of roles and responsibility, and accountability. These are some, critical components which need to be understood and addressed, to ensure that these kind of transformation journey are successful and work in the right intent. This slide I would, just quickly run over. I have spoken to a lot of people. A lot of people do talk about the technicalities, but like I said, contractual consideration are very, very important, and we have faced the downsides of not thinking it through earlier in some other projects. And I would like to, mention that it is important to go through all the contractual considerations so as to ensure that if there is a mismatch in expectation, your rights are rightly protected. So just to wrap up, where we are and what I've been just talking about, adoption of cloud, we need to know when to start adoption of the cloud. There has to be a right time to discuss and plan this adoption. Define the right objectives of this migration, so that if TCO is the only objective, sometimes that probably is not the right objective, and you will never be able to show success for a project like that. So it is important to define the right set of parameters and values, which would ensure that you have the right objectives and success is defined likewise. The criticality of the migration and having the responsibilities mapped is a very critical understanding, and this helps you to plan it in the right manner, having the right tasks defined to ensure that the migration goes as planned. The planning your move, the continuity of that is, then once you have the planning done, plan your move, whether it's a big bang approach, whether it is smaller chunks, whatever works in your environment, you will have to work that out. If you are a single ERP customer, you would have a big bang approach. You have a multi-application customer, you will have multiple smaller movements. It is important to really capture your successes well, understand what all went right, and even if you have smaller failures, your successes would help you ensure that, and the learnings on the successes would ensure that you do the rest of it well, and whatever failed is later converted to a success. And finally, I can't kind of stress on it enough. Contract well. It is important to have the right contractual obligations between partners, because ultimately you're collaborating, but end of the day there is a commercial consideration, and you need to know how well to do it and what works for you and what does not work for you. I hope I've been able to guide you all, to people who are wanting to start a cloud journey. Uh, I will be available for the Q&A session after this, and that's about it. And be free to ask me any questions or any concerns you have.
Thank you, Ritan. That was pretty insightful, and I'm sure a very good introduction for all of us to think about cloud. So my name is Ravi Shankar, and I'm the CTO of Minfy Technologies, and I take care of all aspects, from related to technology to migration to greenfield setup to automation to AI and ML at Minfy. So Minfy primarily is a born in the cloud company. We kind of were incorporated in the year end of 2013 or early 2014 is something that where we were on and incorporated, and and since then we have served over 400 plus clients, and both in the small and small medium and enterprise business segments. So the critical, I mean, today's prime agenda is to understand what kind of Windows workloads and why Windows workloads should be there on AWS. Okay, the most important thing, when you choose a data center is uptime. Like Ritan did mention that in the last 4 years of being on AWS, there has been no downtime, courtesy AWS. Okay, that is something which that is one of the prime reason, why you get into the cloud, because no matter how well you plan your core infra along with the BCP, no, you will certainly look at into some downtime coming every year or at least once or twice in couple of years. So uptime and reliability is up by 7 times on when you think of Windows workload on AWS compared to Azure and where on the other clouds. So this is a Jan to May 19 figure that we are showing here. On the Windows platform, we have a market share which is 2x of other clouds. Okay, AWS has been around for over 11 years now. Okay, and it's been a very incredible journey for AWS. It's grown up almost about 400% in the last 4 years, and performance has been better price for performance for SQL Server versus Azure. Okay, so eventually, because the underlying hardware is good of the cloud, you definitely see more performance. The better performance per hardware unit means you spend lesser into both in terms of hardware, in terms of licenses on the cloud. And AWS is known for its customer focus. There have been 72 price reductions since 2006, and we as partners, we are pretty confident that this is a never-ending cycle. AWS keeps on reducing the price, and the best part is that whenever, and it has been historically seen till date, that whenever a new hardware upgrade has happened, it has always been cheaper than the previous generation of the current one which you were already running on. So that is one of the key stuffs of AWS that you should be working on. So 70% of enterprise workloads run on Windows. So now you know how serious this whole how serious AWS itself is on for the Windows workload. So why fintech on AWS? The fintech is one of the biggest reason is security. Okay, and with lot of tools that you are provided to strengthen your security posture, and there are more than 15 plus such kind of security tools which are given to you. Okay, and for you to increase your posture to meet any kind of compliances that you may have. And when I say any kind of compliances, I would say the call for a third-party application or a third-party security layer is very limited when it comes to AWS, and most of the stuffs you'll find that cloud native will actually suffice for you. Okay, then make data-driven decisions fast and provide outstanding customer service. Okay, so uh, 70 plus state-of-the-art analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning services are there. Okay, and uh, AWS has simplified it to such an extent that many of the machine learning or the AI stack can be used just by calling some a few API. No, for example, some kind of as simple, we can take an example of recognition, your face recognition. So this is not something which you have to really worry about and create or put a whole stack. You just need to call API, send your image, send your libraries, it will match and tell you whether it matches or not. So that's important. Then global infrastructure, which spans 60 availability zones in 20 geographic regions. The best part of having a global infrastructure, especially if you have a global presence, is that you don't have to go and negotiate and renegotiate with local data centers for in many parts of the world, and these are the parts of the world which really make a difference to your business, like Singapore, like Sydney, so and of course covering rest of the America. So when you have a global footprint of your business, your compliance always states that you need to have that standardization, and the regions of AWS guarantees you that it not only complies to global ask but also to local compliance standards. So in that way, you are always it's very easy for you to put up your infrastructure in AWS globally. And finally, the expert team built through years of partnering financial services. So AWS has enough experience. Many of the top financial services companies in the world run on AWS. Okay, and that expertise is something based on which the whole infra has been designed for resilience and for compliance. And that is exactly what is being brought to you as a client and accessible to you anytime. So how can Minfy help you? As I said, we have almost 400 plus customers that we have served. We are currently managing more than 2,000 plus instances in our 24/7 managed service centers. Almost 220 plus global team. We are partners of the CSP, that is AWS. We are premier consulting partners of AWS, which is the highest tier of partnership that you can get, and it's very difficult to get that. So we have seen over 150% growth year on year, and almost 750 plus cloud migration, something which we have done with 125 certified cloud engineers. Okay, and multiple awards which we have received in the past, some of them which I'll be showcasing you in the further slides. Now, these are the competencies we have. An important part of these competencies are these small competencies are more difficult to get rather than a global partnership logo like a premier partnership. So many of these small partnerships actually team up to become a premier consulting partner. So we are a Microsoft workload competency partner, DevOps, education, well architected, SAP. So SAP Minfy is one of the largest SAP migrators and for AWS in India, and we have close to almost 50 plus migrations that we have done, migration in greenfield of large enterprises that we have done, and we are maintaining on AWS. Okay, we are channel partners. We are Amazon EC2 for Microsoft Windows Server. We are a consulting partner for the same, and public sector and immersion day partners. So multiple competencies that we have gained over a period of time, with a global presence of Hyderabad, Bangalore, Bombay, Calcutta, New Delhi, Ahmedabad, and some regional offices in Malaysia. And there are a lot of upcoming offices. We had a huge plans for 2020, but a lot of plans have been shelved for this year. So let's see. We should be continuing with this in the next year. So so why Minfy? So we are a platform-driven company. We have our own product called Swayam, and we have done a lot of automation to see that your your infrastructure is managed properly, and all the alerts as they may happen reaches you on time with a response 24/7 response knock team. So agile deployments, as soon as you get onboarded, you get a PMO assigned, you're a dedicated person you can talk to that can give you a complete understanding of what is happening on your projects. Now, this cost optimization is one of the key factors of AWS. Okay, so whenever you come to AWS or any or on the cloud, you typically feel that I was using an 816 core machine, for example, and I would end up using the same there. But the fact remains that in many of the cases, when you get to the cloud and when you on the cloud, when you have that kind of transparency, both in terms of cost and in terms of performance, you eventually find out ways and means to reduce your infrastructure spend by not using anything which is beyond your actual requirement. So you never provision extra RAM and extra core for a good future. So whenever that future comes near, you just upgrade yourself. So that is something which we do on a continued basis. We are the people who have run data centers at 1/3 the cost compared to what it was running earlier. Okay, so as Ritan did say that TCO is something this is something which you have to kind of build up and work on it to bring time. Correct. Okay, to reduce the TCO, you need to continuously invest the time and energy into reducing cost for your infrastructure. So Minfy helps in doing that, and we have a 24/7 service support. So you really don't have to worry about your infrastructure. We're always there. So one of the most interesting diagrams that I love to tell about this. So what are the application migration patterns? What are the 7 hours of migration? Okay, so typically this goes like this. Retain, retire, relocate, refactor, repurchase, replatform, and rehosting. Okay, so what this simply means is that once you have done your discovery of your assets, discovery of your applications, you have to, your decision would be typically under this 7 framework, seven line items. Okay, and this is typically when this is what you do even when you move your house. If you're changing your house, you more or less do the same stuff. So when you're moving your applications, you take a decision. Okay, I'm going to retain this, so I'm not going to move it from where it was. I'm going to retire it. Let's junk it out. I'm going to relocate it. That means from maybe a physical system, I'm moving to a VMC, or I'm moving to an outpost which is hardware on premise for your application, or I'm going to do a refactor. This is a legacy application. Let me rewrite it, or let me create a wrapper around it, or better ways to use it. Or I'll do a repurchase. Like, why would I move an email server? Why don't I kind of replace it and get some kind of SaaS model? Or you do a replatforming. So you bring it onto the cloud and then you start replatforming it. Maybe you will kind of put make your servers bigger or smaller, or kind of decide on what you want to do with them. Okay, and then you do a rehosting. Absolutely lift and shift from your on-premise as it is you take to the cloud. So all of them have a typical journey path. Whether you do manual rehosting, or you use some automation tool, or you determine a new platform, or you do a repurchase, you purchase a COTS, or you purchase a SaaS-based model. Okay, all of them eventually will reach their validation and transition. Finally, you do a validation of what you have done, and you transition, and then you put it into production. So this one slide sums it all, your journey onto the cloud. And trust me, these are very simple journeys, because there are a lot of tools available, a lot of knowledge available, both in as a team and in the open internet also. So you really don't have to struggle in terms of moving to the cloud. Okay, so the typical migration journey is this. It starts with an assessment. It starts with readiness and planning, this next step, and then you actually do the migration. So yeah, there are rapid discovery. If you're a large infrastructure, there are rapid discovery tools. You run those tools, and it will discover and tell you your entire inventory. It will tell you what kind of infrastructure is talking to which other servers are talking database, or the entire chain will be created for you. Then this is the actual readiness planning where you do the discovery, you create a landing zone. What are the skills do you have? What are the migration expertise do you have? The business case is prepared, plan is prepared, operating model, security compliance. All this is where, from this step 1 and 2, all of this Minfy does for you. So you really don't have to worry about knowing and learning all this, because this may take quite a few years of experience to do it properly. But our team is completely trained to do it, and then the actual migration starts. Migrate, integrate, test, transform, monitor, optimize. Okay, so this once these two phases are done properly, migration becomes it's a simple cakewalk. Either you do it manually, your application team comes in, we give you the servers and they install it, or you can say that this is a legacy system, I need some automation tools. Tools like AWS Cloud Endure can help you migrate from anywhere to the cloud. So we okay. Similarly for .NET, what you do is for typically one day. So you have an application server, okay, and what are the target options you have is an Amazon EC2. EC2 of Amazon is primarily the server that what we know in general parlance as servers. Okay, that is EC2. So if you are rehosting, you do the least code change and fastest path and manage path. If you read platform, maybe you would move from a container or from a physical machine or a VM to a container. Okay, so why do you do that? Because you get consistency, you get scaling, OS utilization is done to the best. You can involve DevOps into this. Okay, or you do a refactor to serverless. So this is an absolutely newer paradigm to move your application into. You can say that we will do away with the servers and server management altogether, and it'll kind of reprogram it. So why do you do all this? How Minfy can also help you. Infra visibility is provided. One-click instance control is there. So all your instances are give me a second, sir. Sorry. So what are the rehost migration options that we contain? There is a e-commerce and the carts. If you have a carts application, you would like to integrate your SMS, you would like to put your AMIs. Okay, AMI is nothing but your images of your servers, and there are CloudFormation templates which is used for automation, and then you put up an EC2. So any kind of commerce or carts application, you can move, you can use some cloud native options, and you can start working onto the or deployment onto the cloud. Similarly, custom .NET, you must be having a Microsoft TFS or a VSTS, or some kind of DevOps, which you can move to your container service and Elastic Container Registries and all. So similarly, Beanstalk is the PaaS of AWS. Okay, you can just bring your .NET deployment and you can straight away deploy it, and the underlying infra can be taken care by AWS itself. Similarly, another use case that you can have is a file processing batch jobs, which you are typically using MSTFS or VSTS, and that can be moved to AWS SAM or Lambda for processing. This is serverless technology of AWS. So what are the target? What is the rehost? Then optimization. Why don't we use a T2 instance or a spot, a non-demand instance to bring down the cost? Okay, how do you extend existing Azure DevOps pipeline by using tools for VSTS? Okay, EC2 auto scaling groups can be used, to bring up servers and infrastructures on demand. Okay, that is a very extremely powerful solution that AWS has. Okay, so you don't really provision your infrastructure for a longer term, and of course refactor your batch jobs that can be done. So how do we do this? From AWS, from Minfy side, we have this platform called Swayam. Okay, and Swayam, you can go and check out. It's called swayam.cloud. Okay, and it's primarily geared towards providing you a very simple console or extraction of the AWS components that you have launched, and that helps you in managing and meeting the compliance or generally viewing the compliance, and also getting a view on your billing, and you can see your breakup of your billings and all onto the Swayam platform. So this is a Minfy proprietary platform that more or less most of our managed service customers get an access to. Okay, what does it provide? Infra visibility, one-click instance control, governance, fast support mechanism. For example, we heard our customer when they said, hey, we are doing a development and we want our server to be restarted. So we send a ticket, you guys respond. It's all like 5-10 minutes gone by that. By the time it server gets rebooted, maybe as simple as that. So we have given an extraction which you can just log into the SWAM portal and reboot the instances yourself. Okay, so that is something which is there. Then MFA for the SWAM, you have multi-factor authentication to make sure that it is safe, your data is safe, and identity and access management is provided using the application itself. So how does it help you? It saves organization management time, helps with security and compliance, optimize networking and net and automation. Add-on tools are there to add a range of resources to task, to complete their task and all. Change management is there, and threat analytics integration is also there, wherein you can go and visualize your threat portion. So we all heard Ritan. He introduced us with SREI. There are few things we would like to bring to your notice. In terms of when we had this. What are the challenges? When we met to the SREI office and discussed with them as to challenges that needed to be addressed to. We saw that we heard that there's a high capital investment in procuring infra. Of course, the infra always reaches a stage wherein you have to, kind of reprovision them or, buy a new hardware or a refresh program has to be put in place. Okay. There are outages resulting in loss of both business and brand value. That is a big loss. Okay. And difficulty in scaling the infra, which is a common problem for all on-premise data centers, that you do not get the scale on demand when you want it. And high operation costs in DC maintenance and maintenance, as you know, right from the diesel that you put in the generator to the AC that runs, everything is a maintenance cost, and they are pretty difficult to keep running 24/7. And then no cost-effective solutioning for setting up DR, which was mandated by RBI. So this is a very important aspect of RBI, and it can become a really big challenge and costly, both challenge and costly to set up a DR when you're on premise, because more or less you end up creating a duplicate or a 2+1 architecture. If you at least create a 3 similar kind of infrastructures for yourself. So what are solutions that we provided? Assessment was done initially by a very specialized team. We found the network OS and middleware DBs and all. Okay, then came the phase migration approach. First, we moved all the non-critical workloads. Okay, so that the most important thing is when a DR happens, that the organization in totality has to get involved with it. So all these small non-critical things started slowly making everyone in the infrastructure get involved with the DR process. And finally, the monolithic and complex and mission critical applications are migration using specialized tools. Okay, because generally when it is mission critical, you cannot you generally as a team don't get downtime. You do get downtime, but those are very challenging downtime. So we were pretty confident with some tools that like Cloud Endure that we used to move the applications to the cloud, and with very minimal downtime of maybe an hour or some, we could actually bring it live to it. And then Minfy's IP is leveraged to give the most cost optimized solution for file system integration. So we brought in our experts and to understand and to integrate the file system into the new infrastructure while we were setting up and migrating the infra to the cloud. So this typically is how very high level of what was set up. Okay, so there was on the cloud there was a VPC setup, and from the DC using cloud stores is one of Minfy's product for file migration. We have used this to migrate all the files to S3 storage, and once the connectivity was established, we also use Cloud Endure to migrate all the database instances, and even those instances which was running on rack. Okay, we Oracle rack rather, so we could migrate it onto the cloud and into a VPC where all the servers were moved on to. Okay, and once this was once this was set up, we were easily able to let the users interact over the internet to the applications which had put in via these load balancers. So very typical infra setup, move using cloud stores and cloud India, and let users access the applications via the load balancer. So as simple as which has been done, but there are multiple tools that were involved. This journey became easier due to them. So what is the outcome? The total cost of operations of DR was optimized at 15% of primary DC. So that was one of the targets given to us, that we should be not crossing 20% of the DC cost when it comes to setting up the DR. Okay, and the DR solution was audited and approved by Gartner without any observations and changes, which helped in setting the stage for BFSI and NBFC customers to start cloud adoption. So it was a very simple solution and a very cost-effective solution, and it really transformed the way people used to think about setting up, especially in the BFSI sector, and people used to think about setting up DRs. So DR drill was immensely successful with zero data loss. That was the most important aspect. When we bought up the infra, it was more or less the RPO was near to zero. Okay, all the AP1 application servers started within the stipulated RTO of 2 hours. External auditors from RBI audited and approved the DR setup as it complied to all the regulation governed. And Minfy as an omni-channel solution for SREI, from the design of the solution, implementation to managed service support, helps SREI to focus on their core business. Okay, so apart from the core data center migration, we also got involved in setting up the different security layers, firewalls. Okay, everything was done in Minfy as a single window interaction and implementation. So that was a outcome which was successfully brought this project to the closure. And we have a 4-year, as Utan mentioned, for the past 4 years we have been working together, and we have a very successful partner going on. So some awards and recognition that we have. With a very coveted award we received this year, which is a consulting partner of the year, one of the highest level award that AWS provides in the partnership ecosystem. Okay, so we have won this just about last month. Okay, and Worldwide Public Sector Award is another big award that we won in the year 2020. So this is a very partial list. We have a wall full of them in the office. So we have been receiving these. Maybe I'm sure from the second year onwards itself, we started getting a lot of awards for our implementation. Some global customers that we have, all the big names that you can see here, Tata's, Honeywell's, D. Shaw's, NSDC, Burgess. This is Media. Okay, then Byju's is there, Kaveri Seed, which is an SAP, Madhuri is an SAP. A lot of customers we have among in our fold. So with this, I would like to bring this to an end, and thanks a lot for all the time, and I think we can proceed to a question and answer session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Shankar. Thank you, Mr. Vitayan, as well, for the very insightful session. Can we also take a minute to, let's say, understand, Mr. Banerjee, what was your experience after the migration, right? What's your key takeaway? What's the experience been like after you've migrated?
Like I said, now it's been a little over 4 years, so it's a long time looking back. So we had a failed migration on a different platform earlier, and we were a little apprehensive, to say the least. Like I said, it is a constant evolution of where you start off from. But it is important to have your objectives set into your sites correctly, because that helps you really evaluate. It's the smaller gains which come up first, or what we would call the low hanging fruits. It's important to understand that, and it takes about a year and a half to really be able to evaluate the benefits, and for the TCOs to come on to play. It is a different discussion, but today with the pandemic and the business slowdown, being on the cloud, being on the AWS platform has helped us a lot to keep in checks and balances. What is primary today is my cost. So it's over a period evolution, but to understand all your success criteria before you move. It is important so that you are able to recognize them coming in. Initial days would be, it's like losing control. You have your own data center and you can go touch and feel your server, to having something on the cloud which you cannot touch, feel, or it's not tangible. So it's a journey. It is nothing which happens overnight. How you access the server still remains the same. It comes over the network, but it's a journey. But it's important to recognize what is critical to that journey, and when that success does come in, whatever it might be in whoever case, to recognize and appreciate that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, thank you. And it is indeed a journey. So with that, if I may request you gentlemen to just hold on, and we'll go forward for the Q&A session now, right? So we have a question which says, while migrating SREI Windows applications to AWS, how much time did your team spend on evaluating tools? That's one, the time spent on tools. And the other question is, did you use any specific migration tools for moving data? I know you mentioned Cloud Endeavor, but any other specific tools specifically for data? I think, Mr. Ravishankar, that's a question for you. So the time spent and the tools that you used.
Yes, thank you. So primary tool that was used, now since this entire stack of SREI was based out of x86, okay, and Cloud Endeavor is one of the strongest tool when which does block sync, right? So the primary tool that was used to migrate was definitely Cloud Endeavor. Okay, apart from that, we have used Minfy's tools like cloud stores and all for file movement. Like there was a DMS server. A lot of documents were there. So move those. We have used cloud stores. Okay, and but the application stack, those were the easiest part. You put up the server, the application team comes in, they deploy their application. Those could have been done. But as you're aware, the most critical part is the database movement and cutover of the database when you're actually going live. So that is something Cloud Endeavor did it end to end. So we did not have any major problem faced there.
Okay, and the first part of that was, the tools that you evaluated and the time that you had to spend on them.
Okay, so Cloud Endeavor was something. I mean, in typical scenario, and this is like 4 years ago. The number of tools that we had, even native tools, were pretty limited at that point of time. Cloud Endeavor itself was an independent company at that point of time. So we were kind of aware of that. We had used it for the customers. So typically on SREI we did not have to it, but if you ask me before SREI to reach Cloud Endeavor, how much of effort did we put in? Yes, we had evaluated multiple tools. They were all in evolving stage. Okay, there were a lot of challenges there. We had evaluated some of the big names, VMs of the world and all, but they also did not have at that point of time, the block kind of thing that we are trying to look at. But from a VMware perspective, they were always ready. Okay, but the destination again was not a VMware. So we always found that there was some gaps around. Okay, now they have all become very strong. But in general, Cloud Endeavor was the choice. We just went on with it.
Makes sense. Okay. So as we wait for my questions, Mr. Banerjee, I had, I was, the session that you had was fairly insightful. And what I was wondering was, so, you had two major points that you made, which is look at a TCO from a holistic perspective, right? And also, you had a comment around the RBI guidelines and how the white paper actually helped you make the decision, right? So the question actually is, again, mixture of actually two questions. In terms of, can you shed some light as to, what, typical RBI guidelines that you have, and how did that white paper, and how did the, AWS infrastructure help you in making that decision, right? I'm sure there was a lot of compliance that you had to adhere to.
Right. Okay. See, RBI guidelines are generally on how you operate your data center, what kind of legalities are there on data storage, storage in India, storage outside India, what kind of access, what kind of logs, what kind of reporting is required. So there is a pretty complex requirement. Now to translate all that to what you exactly require and you require on AWS, because the kind of services available on AWS itself are quite large as well. And you need to know which all to turn on and turn off. So say Cloud Guard, Cloud Duty. So these are things which help you achieve that compliance. Now, what happened with this AWS white paper is it said on the right hand side you had the RBI requirements, on the left hand side more or less you had what within AWS addressed that need and requirement. So, made things easier. RBI has a requirement for a third-party audit. So, AWS data center is something which I can't go and touch and feel, but AWS has the contractual framework that if you are in the banking, financial services, NBFC industry, you can have it included in your contract so that if RBI ever decides to have a third-party inspection, they can do it to your data center. So these are things which really helped us not only have the comfort but also to know what all we need to do to have it running. And today we even have a SOC outsourced to a third party monitoring my data center. So that's also been working well.
Cool. So that was very useful. Thanks. And Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Ravishankar, thanks a lot for your very insightful session. I think you shed light on some very interesting points, and it's interesting journey that you had. I wish you best of luck for your future endeavors. And with that, we're right on time. So thanks again, and I hope to the audience, thanks for being patient and tuning in. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.